Sunset's orange blaze outlined the jailhouse. 50 riders surged toward the steps, horse hooves drumming like thunder, dust stinging eyes, and sweat-stained leather filling the air. Sheriff Cole pressed his back against cold iron, hand on his empty holster.
At his shoulder, a pregnant outlaw clutched his wounded arm, each shallow breath a prayer for two. He had already broken the law to shelter her. Now their fate balanced on a knife's edge. Will he keep his oath or watch justice destroy them both? There was no turning back now. 2 hours earlier, Cole rode into a different sun. Afternoon sun beat down on the canyon walls. Sheriff Cole rode hard down the dusty road, spurs jingling on his leather boots. Near Tin Star Gulch, he found her. A wounded outlaw collapsed against a rock. She shivered under a torn shawl, a faint trickle of blood dark on her white chemise. Her name was Elise, pregnant with child, eyes fierce despite fever. "She's dying," murmured Cole. He reined to dust and pressed a cool hand to her brow. The smell of sage and sweat hung in the air. 3 hours to sundown, he computed. Cole eased Elise gently onto his horse. Her weight against him felt like fate. He tore a strip from his own shirt, pressing it to her side. The hot metal of his watch glinted 4:15 as he wrapped the makeshift bandage. He knelt, torn. He fingered a worn leather band at his neck. Annie's wedding ring. He closed his eyes and whispered her name, reminding himself of a promise. A far-off whippoorwill cried and broke the moment. He opened his eyes. "And you," Elise whispered, voice faltering, "must save me." Cole blinked. He had once killed a man for less. He glanced at his silver star. Marshall Benson's words echoed, "Courage ain't killing, Cole." The memory knotted in his chest. His late wife, Annie, had died thinking he'd come home. He promised again, "I won't fail." Cole squeezed her hand, offering strength. He spurred the horse toward the willow grove where he kept first aid supplies. Sweat cooled on his brow as a distant thunder rumbled. Glancing back through the heat mirage, he peered at the ridgeline. A lone horseman paused with rifle lowered, black hat turned their way. Cole's breath caught.
Is he being followed? Subscribe now to follow Cole's fight for mercy. Afternoon sun baked Tin Star Gulch. Sheriff Cole returned to the stone jailhouse. At the edge of town, reins on his arm, he tied his horse to a hitching post and stepped inside the empty sally port.
The open cell door swung shut behind him with a clank. Dust motes danced in the slatted light. In the cell, he eased the wounded outlaw onto the wooden bench. Mary Hart stood in the doorway with bandages. Flour dusted her apron from baking. She smelled of bread and lavender. A flicker of concern crossed her face as she hurried over. Mary wrapped Elise's side with coarse linen. "Aren't you risking everything, Cole?" she asked softly. "She's carrying a child," he answered. "Even lawmen make choices when something's human." He winced as he tightened the bandage. Elise moaned weakly behind the bars. Mary exchanged a grave look with Cole. "Morgan's boys are already at the jail door," she warned quietly. "If word spreads, the mob will come." Cole felt the silver star press cold against his chest. He exhaled slowly. Storm clouds gathered on the horizon. The wooden city clock began to chime. Cole glanced at it. 1:30, 2 hours to sundown. The jail's shutters rattled ominously in the warm breeze. A deputy burst in. "Sheriff, trouble! A crowd's forming at the saloon." They heard Elise's name. Dust and gunpowder hung in the air as Cole raised his eyes. He laced his fingers on the cell's bars. Two futures spread before him. Leave to face the mob or stand firm as the law. Mary's hand tightened on his arm. Would mercy or justice win out? Shadows grew long in a pine grove outside town. Sheriff Cole made a campfire as dusk painted the sky pastel orange. Elise sat with knees hugged to her belly, a tin cup of cool water cradled in her hands. They shared a small loaf of bread and cheese, washing it down with bitter whiskey from his canteen. She asked softly, "Why did you risk everything for me?" Cole's jaw was tight. "I was once like you," he said quietly. He spoke of a past. His brother had died by a bullet he'd fired in anger, and he'd traded his guns for a badge to atone. The lawman's star sat heavy on his shirt. He fingered the tarnished metal, remembering Annie's trusting eyes. Elise nodded, shadows flickering in her eyes. "I was raised on a ranch," she confessed, voice low. "I learned to shoot as a child. My husband was killed by a man named Wes Morgan. I rode with outlaws for revenge until I felt life growing here." She placed a hand on her belly. "I swore to end Morgan, then vanish from this world." Her fingers trembled. Cole offered her more bread. "You broke the worst kind of chain," he murmured. She nodded slowly. "Maybe we're not so different." The campfire crackled. The scent of pine and wet earth rose. They ate in silence for a while. Cole dug in his coat pocket and pulled out a tarnished silver pocket watch, its chain glinting in the firelight. "My dad gave me this," he said, pressing it into Elise's palm. "Keep it safe." She stared at the heirloom, tears in her eyes. Night deepened around them. Stars blinked awake. A lone coyote howled in the distance. Cole glanced at his watch. 6:30 p.m., an hour to sundown. The sky was nearly black. Together by firelight, they held their confessions silently, bound by regret and hope. Smoke curled between them. Would this fragile trust carry them through the night? Thunder cracked overhead. Rain pelted the pine grove as Sheriff Cole and Elise packed blankets by their dying fire. Distant hoofbeats shook the ground. Lightning flared among black clouds. Cole gritted his teeth and shouldered his rifle. Fate and storm had come together. Suddenly, a rider burst from the timber. Wes Morgan's gang, faces set, rifles leveled. "Grab her!" snarled Morgan. Two outlaws lunged and pinned Elise to the mud. Cole fired a warning shot. Bark shattered. The gang dove for cover, guns aimed. A deputy's cry split the rain. Deputy Sam leapt forward with pistol drawn. Cole moved fast, pushing Sam out of fire. Guns erupted. Splinters flew as Cole ducked. A shout. Then Cole saw a bullet graze Sam's side. Cole's heart hammered. He grabbed Sam as the deputy stumbled. Blood blossomed on Sam's shirt. "Run!" Sam gasped. Cole pressed Sam behind a log. Elise struggled free and whimpered in the downpour.
Cole's vow broke. Rage made him fearless. He bolted upright and raced into the chaos. Cole leveled his rifle at the nearest outlaw. Thunder masked the shot as the man cried out and fell. Another thug barreled in. Cole rolled aside and fired. The outlaw dropped with a thud.
Then Morgan stepped into the street, pistol drawn. Cole stood his ground. He fired again. The bullet tore through Morgan's shoulder. Morgan screamed and crashed into the mud. Blood mixed with rain in dark rivulets. Cole sank to his knees beside Sam. Water dripped from his hat brim as he checked his partner's pulse. Sam's eyes met his. "Do it right," Sam whispered, then went still. Cole gripped the cold star on his chest. The storm rumbled. Lightning flashed. Had mercy come at too high a price? Midnight in Tin Star Gulch. Lamplight flickered on Main Street as a cold wind swept down the alleys. Sheriff Cole strode toward the jail, rifle in hand. Elise crouched behind a barrel at the saloon's entrance, eyes wide with fear. Suddenly, fists hammered the jail's shuttered windows. Wes Morgan's mob, rifles blazing, stormed the street. "Hold it!" Cole shouted, dropping behind a post. "This ends now." Gunfire erupted. The mob's bullets shattered lanterns, molten glass sprayed like sparks. Splinters flew as wood cracked on his shoulder.
Cole ducked under a hail of shots. He tasted smoke and gunpowder on the wind. Through the chaos, he spotted Morgan's face. "Mercy's dead, Sheriff." Morgan spat, firing again. Cole returned fire. Lead and cursing filled the air. One outlaw crumpled, struck by Cole's rifle. Elise screamed as another thug slashed with an axe. Oil from a lantern spilled. A red flame blossomed on the jail's wooden steps. Lamplight danced in puddles at Cole's feet. He bolted upright and lunged at Morgan as thunder rumbled. The mob's barrage thinned. Only Morgan remained. Cole leveled his rifle at Morgan, who raised his pistol. Cole fired. The bullet slammed Morgan's shoulder. He howled and staggered, eyes wild, before collapsing into the muddy street. Rain washed the red from his hair. Elise stumbled out from cover. Cole ran to her and pulled her upright.
"It's over," he said, voice low. She nodded, shivering. Cole wiped mud off his rifle and holstered it. The attackers had fled into the night. He lowered his smoking rifle, heart still hammering. Rain and smoke blurred the world. He tightened his grip and held his breath. In the flickering firelight, a tall man in a black hat stepped from an alley for an instant, eyes locked on Cole. The street was empty again. The fight was won. But who had been watching from the darkness? Lightning lit the street as Cole turned from Morgan's body. In the molten glow of burning oil, he saw a tall figure step from an alley. Cole's fingers trembled on his rifle. The man straightened. It was Jack Cole, the orphaned son of Cole's late brother. Jack's face was set and pale, the sheriff's breath caught. The distant church bells began to toll midnight. Jack spoke quietly, voice like wind. "I watched you kill those men." His gaze swept the smoking ruins. "You always said you'd never take another life. You swore it to me on my mother's grave." Cole's chest ached. "When your bullet ended him, only blood was left between us." The thunder rumbled far away. Cole's thoughts raced. He remembered Annie's gentle eyes, the faith she had in him. He felt the weight of his promise and the badge at once. He took a step toward Jack. Jack met his gaze. "Kill me," he whispered. "Either way. If you do, you're a murderer twice over. If you don't, the law will have me by dawn. We both lose." Cole looked at the silver star pinned to his chest, shirt soaked and stained. He took a breath but had no answer. The night fell silent. First light crept on the eastern sky. The road felt empty beneath him. Cole needed an answer by sunrise, but which path would he choose? Rain had stopped by dawn. Sheriff Cole stood still, rifle lowered. A cool breeze carried the scent of smoke and pine. Church bells in town chimed gently. Jack exhaled. "Then you won't kill me," he said softly. Cole closed his eyes. "No," he whispered. "I can't." He turned and wiped mud from his coat. "Walk free, Jack. I won't stop you." Jack nodded, sadness in his eyes. "I was never your burden," he said quietly. I'll find my own justice." He offered a small, sad smile and walked away down the silent street. Nearby, Elise groaned softly. Cole hurried to her side. She lay on the sidewalk, breathing shallow, hand on her swollen belly. He knelt and offered her his water flask. "You're safe now," he assured her. She managed a weak smile. "Thank you," she whispered. Cole placed a gentle hand on her shoulder. "You and your child will be safe," he promised. He helped her to her feet. Dawn painted Tin Star Gulch golden. He lifted her into the saddle of his horse, then climbed up beside her. She wrapped trembling fingers around his arm.
They rode out of town under the morning sun, past the saloon and stable, past empty porches. The road stretched on. His horse's steady hoofbeats were the only sound. Cole remained silent. The night's adrenaline had left him. Cole glanced at Elise. Quiet tears traced a line down her cheek.
He said softly, "You're going to make a fine mother." Elise managed a small, brave laugh. By the time they cleared the last hill, Tin Star Gulch was a golden speck in the rearview mirror. Cole breathed deeply. The weight of the star on his chest felt as heavy as the dawn sky. Still, one question remained as clear as morning. Had mercy truly won? Subscribe now to see which path he chooses. He rode into the dawn. Mercy had survived the night, but justice's debt remained unsettled. Justice wears mercy's face.